Well, it's that time of year again. The Wine Spectator top 10 list is out. Again, I have no idea how they select these wines. I know that they claim to taste everything blind, but going over thousands and thousands of wines per year, I have no idea how they come up with this top 10 list, but I'm going to take a look at it and give my thoughts. Let's start out with number 10 here.
Combine very old Grenache vines in prime Southern Rhone with one of wine's most dynamic mother-daughter duos, and you get Wine Spectator's number 10 wine of 2025. Famille Isabelle Ferrando's 2022 Sans Préfère Chateauneuf de Pape. Isabelle Ferrando's excellent Chateauneufs have been turning heads since her very first vintage in 2003. Despite being a relative newcomer to the region, she's become the face of Chateauneuf de Pape's modern era. Many fans know her wines by their historical name, Domaine Sans Préfère. But in 2020, she began a new chapter. She changed the estate's name to Famille Isabelle Ferrando. She was joined by her talented daughter, Guillemette, and she returned to the long-standing tradition in Chateauneuf of blending her many vineyard sources together into a single cuvée. 2022 is the third vintage for Famille Isabelle Ferrando's flagship cuvée, and it showcases Isabelle's hallmark style, a silky, elegant, enticing red brimming with Chateauneuf soul. Well done, Isabelle and Guillemette, on crafting Wine Spectator's number 10 wine of 2025.
I was actually just in Chateauneuf de Pape earlier this year to taste the new vintages. I go every single year. I have to say that I have not tasted the 22 of this wine. I've tasted it in the past. I really like a long time ago, so I can't remember the style. I can tell you that 2022 was a pretty rich vintage in Chateauneuf de Pape when I was tasting the new vintages. I prefer 21s and 23s even because they had a little more spine of acidity. 22 is pretty fat like it was in Bordeaux. Although Chateauneuf is one of those odd wines where even though it's a little bit big and more alcoholic, I kinda like it. I don't kinda like it, I love drinking Chateauneuf de Pape because it's so distinguished. 108 bucks. It's, it's pretty expensive. I do think that Chateauneuf's the prices of everything are climbing. I do think that you can get excellent Chateauneuf de Papes in the 40 to 50, $60 range. I will link up my video of Chateauneuf de Papes to try this year from when I visited earlier in the year, so I'll put that in the description box. You obviously can see I'm not filming this in my studio. I'm actually in Rioja at the moment. I just finished up a week of Rioja camp. It was intense, but expect a deep dive video soon. Let's move on to number 9.
The defining vintage of a generation. Pristine, high-elevation vineyards. A marriage of Tuscan tradition and modern values. They all came together to forge our number 9 wine of 2025, the Castello di Ama Chianti Classico San Lorenzo Gran Selezione 2021. Founded in 1976 by 4 families from Rome, Castello di Ama is now overseen by second-generation co-owner Lorenzo Sebasti, while GM and chief enologist Marco Palanti has been meticulously nurturing Ama's vineyards for more than 40 years. Rising as high as 1,700 feet in elevation, the stony soils of Ama's vineyards yield an expression of Chianti Classico that combines elegance, intensity, and inner strength. With a dash of Merlot supporting the Sangiovese-based blend, Palanti's modern winemaking touches still honor the tradition-rooted Chianti Classico region, but it's this wine's sense of place that speaks loudest. The 2021 vintage delivered a new quality benchmark for Chianti Classico, and Castello di Ama's San Lorenzo Gran Selezione is our number 9 wine of 2025.
I was in Castello de Ama back in 2021, 2022. It's in the hamlet of Ama. They actually have a Michelin star restaurant, or maybe it's a 2 Michelin star restaurant on the property. I think the San Lorenzo is a fantastic wine. 21 is a great vintage. I didn't taste the 21. I think the last one I had was 19, which is incredible. I love the high-end Castello de Ama style because they're more elegant. You know how much I love Sangiovese. These wines are incredible. And if you can't afford this, I think the standard Castello de Ama Chianti Classico is a great buy. A few years ago, I had their Monteboni 2019 Chianti Classico Reserva in a video, which I thought was incredible. This is an estate that's fairly well distributed and worth checking out. But let's move on to number 8. By the way, 2021, fantastic vintage in Chianti Classico. I recommend even getting the standard ones, the Annatas, because They're good value for money. Let's move on to 8.
An outlier vineyard, a second-generation vintner, and a benchmark vintage. Those are just a few of the factors that help lift Wayfarer's 2023 Estate Pinot Noir to number 8 on our 2025 Top 100. Owned by Cleo Pallmeyer, Wayfarer, in Sonoma's Fort Ross Seaview AVA, represents California's burgeoning coastal Pinot Noir category. The fruit from Wayfarer's estate vineyard, planted back in 2002, was previously blended into the Pallmeyer bottling created by Cleo's father, Jason. He sold the family business to Gallo in 2019, but Cleo hung on to this high-elevation jewel on the Sonoma coast for her Wayfarer label, which she founded in 2012. Planted to 11 different clones of Pinot Noir, the vineyard also has the distinction of being the only Sonoma property planted by Napa-based vineyard guru David Abreu. Winemaker Todd Cohn, a UC Davis and Opus One alum, joined the Wayfarer team in 2013. A gorgeously fruited Pinot Noir inflected with a coastal breeze-driven minerality, the 2023 Wayfarer Estate Pinot Noir is our number 8 wine of 2025.
Those are some heavy-hitting names there. David Abreu, Pallmeyer, Gallo. I have to say that I have not tasted this wine yet, but lately my opinion of Sonoma Pinot Noirs have really changed. I've said before on this channel, I'm a big Santa Barbara County guy, and then lately I've been getting more and more to the Willamette Valley. Sonoma Pinot Noirs, though, have been changing my mind. I've been tasting some excellent ones lately. These are some big names and some big-time money behind it, so I'm guessing that it's pretty darn good. And look at James there, looking like he's been working out a little bit. Let's move on to number 7 here.
A quality-driven cooperative with a link to the father of Barbaresco, a bastion of traditional Nebbiolo in Italy's Piedmont region. That's the story behind our number 7 wine of 2025, Produttore del Barbaresco's 2021 Barbaresco. Back in the 19th century, wine producers in Barbaresco made a bid to join the neighboring and more prestigious Barolo zone. When their overtures were rejected in 1894, leading local enologist Dominio Cavazza founded the Barbaresco region's first winery cooperative. The co-op ceased operations sometime after World War I, but was resurrected in 1958 as the Produttore del Barbaresco. Today, the cooperative sources Nebbiolo grapes from 53 member grape growers, all of them incentivized to produce top-quality fruit. Focused exclusively on Nebbiolo, grown in the commune of Barbaresco, the cooperative makes 3 levels of wines, ramping up in quality and price from the least expensive Nebbiolo Langhe bottling to this Barbaresco DOCG, a blend of several vineyards, to the Produttore's flagship single vineyard Reservas. The Produttore del Barbaresco has also been well served by its long line of homegrown leadership. Current director Aldo Vaca, whose grandfathers were founding members, succeeded his father as the group's director in 1991. For its expression of Barbaresco, excellent quality, and terrific value, Produttore del Barbaresco's 2021 Barbaresco earns the number 7 spot in Wine Spectator's Top 100 Wines of 2025.
I love this cooperative. To me, it's one of the greatest cooperatives in the world. I love Barbaresco. The 2019 showed up in my Barolo versus Barbaresco video. I think I released it earlier this year. This is a phenomenal wine. I've had the 21. I've had the single vineyards from 21, I believe, too. One of them showed up in a video that came out a few months ago. This is still one of the great values in the world of wine. And if you can't spring for this, their Langhe Nebbiolo in US retails for around 29 bucks. I think in Europe you can get it for under 20 euros. It's just a fantastic wine, and as a you have to support. I love to support the cooperatives. If you want to support the little guy, you support the cooperatives. These are small growers. Fantastic wine, and I'll give Wine Spectator kudos on this one. And look at Bruce with those blue glasses. He's always styling, profiling. Let's move on to number 6.
A 7th-generation vintner and an under-the-radar grape from Bordeaux came together in this iconic South American winery. Those factors and more aided the 2021 Cloapalta on its way to becoming our number 6 wine of 2025. Alexandra Marnier Le Postal, great-granddaughter of the founder of Grand Marnier, and her husband, Cyril de Bornay, came to the Apalta Valley in 1994 with a vision to create a first-rate wine from some of the world's oldest own-rooted vines. Their son, Charles de Bornay, now guides the winery with a forward-looking mindset for relentless improvement on his family's 200-year winemaking history. Clos Apalta's flagship Bordeaux-style blend is centered on Carmenet, a grape that vanished from its native Bordeaux in the 19th century, but has become Chile's adopted signature varietal. Chilean vintners have been unlocking its potential for decades, and there's perhaps no bigger champion of Carmenet than Clos Apalta. Congratulations to Charles de Bornay and his team for making our number 6 wine of 2025.
So much to unpack here. I was just in Chile a little over a month ago. I did not visit Clos Apalta, but it was my first time in Chile. The Clos Apalta 2019 showed up in my Grand Vin versus Second Wine video that came out a year or 2 years ago. I have a lot of respect for Clos Apalta because they make this Bordeaux blend, and the majority of it is Carmenere, I think over 50%. And then another funny story, last year I was at Wine Bowl Live in New York City before the Wine Spectator grand tasting, and I met Charles de Bonnet, and I didn't know who he was, and I asked, "Oh, do you work for Wine Bowl?" And he said, "No, I wish." He was really humble, and then somebody pointed out that he's the owner of Clos Apalta, super influential Basque family in Chile. So this wine is expensive. I think I would go for the Petit Clos. It's their second wine. I think in the US you can get it for like 50, $60. It is really close in quality to the Grand Vin. And if you like that style, that's what I would go for. I don't know who Aaron is too, the senior editor that's talking about this, but hey, whatever. Today, I'm going to give you 15% off Gabriel glass, which is a sponsor of this video. I love this glass. It works with everything. It's made from stunning lead-free crystal. It's designed to decant. It has a great shape, so it gives off great aromas. I've found that I always get a lot of pleasure when using this glass. The rim of the glass is laser cut and diamond polished, so it really gives off a fantastic experience when sipping on wine. It's a single piece of molten crystal that's blown into the signature shape of the bowl, as it's dishwasher safe. Use the affiliate link below, and from now until 2 weeks, that's December 3rd, you can get 15% off the glass. I do get a small commission if you purchase with that link, and it helps the channel out, so thank you. Let's move on to number 5 here.
A generational transition heralded a shift in style at this family-owned estate in Bordeaux, and now Chateau Beauséjour-Bécot is among Saint-Émilion's vanguard, and its 2022 vintage is our number 5 wine of 2025. Juliette Bécot's wine career began in 2001, working alongside her father Gerard, who had been making the family's wines since 1967. When Gerard retired in 2015, Juliette wanted to build on her father's legacy by putting Beauséjour-Bécot among the appellation's elite estates. She shifted the winemaking to focus on freshness, detail, and precision, moving away from the extraction-driven garagiste style of the past. Juliette and her husband, Julien Barth, oversaw the construction of a new cellar that included a new range of aging vessels, from barrels to large oak fruiter to clay amphora. A significant portion of the estate's 54 acres of vines were also replanted. The scintillating 2022 Grand Vin, a blend of 3/4 Merlot with Cabernet Franc and a drop of Cabernet Sauvignon, beautifully displays the updated house style. Now helping to lead the charge in Saint-Émilion, Beauséjour-Bécot's 2022 vintage is our number 5 wine of 2025.
I have to give Wine Spectator a little bit of credit. I was the first one actually to release these Wine Spectators and all these top 100, top 10 lists, because my video blew up and a lot of other YouTubers copied. And in that first video that I did, I was really critical of how poor the editors were in Wine Spec and how the video production was, because it took a long time in the beginning. I don't think that I had anything to do with it, but I do like how they jump right into the video, and the videos have changed a little bit. Still, the editors aren't great on camera. You see them reading the teleprompter. However, I love the Right Bank Bordeaux. Some of you know that I was working retail for the last year. I released a video on this. We did a big Bordeaux tasting, and during that Bordeaux tasting, we were pouring a lot of everything from affordable Bordeaux up to classified gross. And in that 2022 tasting, the Chateau Beauséjour-Bécot was my favorite wine out of all of them. 2022 is a plush vintage. It's a little bit richer. These Bordeauxs, they can be accessed pretty early, but they're definitely going to age well. And at 85 bucks, I know it's not cheap, but it's a relative value in the world of fine wine. I think 2022 Bordeaux is excellent across the vintage. Even affordable Bordeauxs are fantastic, and they're approachable right away. I think that's where the vintage really shines, because these affordable Bordeauxs you can just drink right away. Let's move on to number 4 here.
It's a back-to-back appearance in our top 100 for this revitalized Noir stalwart, our number 4 wine of 2025. William Sellium is a beloved Pinot Noir label for American wine lovers, and it clocks in again with another vintage, the 2023, of its East Side Road Neighbors bottling from Sonoma's Russian River Valley. William Sellium has cemented itself as an icon of California Pinot Noir, thanks in large part to Jeff Mangajas, who's been head winemaker here since 2014. Walking in the footsteps of former winemaker Bob Cabral and original founders Burt Williams and Ed Sellium, Mangajas continues to honor the house style here, emphasizing vivid, ripe fruit balanced by underlying juiciness. Grapes for the East Side Road Neighbors bottling are sourced from the Caligari, Foss, and Lewis McGregor vineyards, all on the eastern flank of Russian River Valley. How did William Sellium manage to crack our top 10 2 years in a row? 2023 is a mic drop vintage for California Pinot Noir, with a cool, even growing season and a late running harvest that allowed the grapes to reach their full potential. This Russian River Pinot dials it up to 11. 2023 William Sellium East Side Road Neighbors Pinot Noir is our number 4 wine of 2025.
I have a weird relationship with William Sellium. I used to not like these wines at all. I thought actually when they're too young, they're just too oaky. But lately, I've been tasting a lot of aged ones, especially in my collector group. A lot of my collector friends are on the mailing list. I have had older vintages of the East Side Road Neighbors. I think it might be an allocation members only wine, but I can't remember the last vintage I had. It was earlier this year. We were doing our Pinot Noir tasting, and I had it with age, and I thought it was spectacular. It really has changed my mind on the producer and Sonoma Pinot Noir with age. Again, 72 bucks, not a cheap wine. If you get this, I would highly recommend you got to put in the cellar for at least 10 years. Let's move on to number 3 here.
A trailblazing California winery and gnarly century-old vines delivered the highest ranking ever for California's heritage grape. Our number 3 wine of 2025 is Ridge Lytton Springs Dry Creek Valley 2023. Senior editor Tim Fish says this polished zin is deeply structured and full of tension, with bold blackberry flavors and big refined tannins. The grapes come from northern Sonoma County's Lytton Springs vineyard, first planted in 1901. Ridge has been making wine here since 1972. California wine legend Paul Draper made the wines for decades, and current head winemaker John Olney has been with Ridge for nearly 30 years. This 2023 bottling is around 3/4 Zinfandel, with Petit Syrah and Carignan contributing a zesty, spicy character. Ridge, with its instantly recognizable mid-century labels, has long set the standard for California Zinfandel, and the 2023 Ridge Lytton Springs, our number 3 wine of 2025, continues that legacy.
First of all, I don't know who this editor is, but I have to tell you, this bottle, this exact vintage, is going to show up in an upcoming video because I got sent some samples of it. I tasted against another cult California wine. Ridge is a great classic California wine, their best wine, the Montebello Cabernet-based wine, one of the greatest wines in the world. I'm surprised that they pick Lytton Springs over Geyserville. Geyserville is the more famous wine. I've always preferred Lytton Springs or even Three Valleys, which is more affordable. The only thing is, Lytton Springs used to be a lot more affordable than Geyserville. Now they're about the same price, and now it made the top. Now it's number 3. I think it's going to shoot up in price, which I don't, I don't love. This wine is classic. Earlier this year, I even had a Lytton Springs with some age on it, and it was just phenomenal. Highly recommend. I think this is the highest rated Zinfandel on Wine Spectator's top 10 list ever. So I have to give Spectator credit. So far, a lot of these wines are not crazy priced. I mean, they're expensive, but they're not crazy in price. Let's move on to number 2 here.
A memorable vintage, a legendary winemaker, and an immigrant success story. Those were just some of the X factors behind our number 2 wine of 2025, Marc Aubert's 2023 Sonoma Coast UV-SL Vineyard Chardonnay. The 2023 growing season was cool and late, giving grapes a longer runway to ripen before harvest time. And Marc told me that he's never seen the vines as happy as they were in 2023. Perhaps happiest of all were the Chardonnay vines in the UV-SL vineyard, which holds a lot of personal meaning for Aubert. The UV in the vineyard's name is for the late Ulysses Valdez, a dear friend of Marc's and a widely respected grape grower and Mexican immigrant who developed the vineyard with Aubert in 2006. The SL stands for the vineyard's address on Stoats Lane, which is less than 10 miles from the Pacific Ocean and surrounded by redwoods. Here on the Sonoma Coast, the cool air from the intense maritime influence offsets the warm and ripening afternoon sun. Marc Aubert is a legend among California Chardonnay makers, setting the bar for his meticulous vineyard work and unforgettable wines. And his 2023 Sonoma Coast UV-SL Vineyard Chardonnay is yet another wine to remember. To Marc, his wife Teresa, and the entire team at Aubert, congratulations.
I have not tasted this vintage of this wine. Actually, at Wine Spectator's grand tasting last year, I tasted another vintage. I don't think it was this exact single vineyard bottling. And of course, it's a Sonoma Coast. Sometimes these can be pretty innocuous. I remember last year at the Wine Spectator event, whatever bottling I had of it, I was really impressed because during that tasting, I tasted every single wine there, and it meant a lot if a wine stood out. And this was pretty good, I have to admit. Uh, $100, it is what it is. But with my experience, the wines are good. Let's move on to the top wine.
An early scandal and a long-running ownership dispute couldn't deter a determined harvest intern who has gone on to guide this storied Bordeaux chateau for the last 30 years. And now that former harvest intern has made Wine Spectator's 2025 Wine of the Year. The story begins when Dutch businessman Eric Albada Jelgersma purchased Chateau Giscourt in 1995. Not long thereafter, the classified third growth estate in Bordeaux's Margaux appellation became the subject of a fraud investigation. Some of the chateau's wines had been adulterated without Jelgersma's knowledge. There was, however, a silver lining. After dismissing the technical team responsible for the embarrassment, Albada Jelgersma was left with harvest intern Alexander Van Beek. Van Beek stayed, and he wound up piloting the estate through those tough early years, restoring the winery's reputation, only to see it embroiled in yet another distraction, a 2-decade-plus ownership dispute that wasn't resolved until the late Albada Jelgersma's children gained full control in late 2023. Van Beek and his team have persevered through it all. They started by rejuvenating the vineyard, replacing nearly 140,000 dead vines. Following that, rather than bring all the grapes in at once, the Giscourt team implemented precision harvesting, with multiple passes through each vineyard parcel to account for the variations in vine age and other factors. The team also introduced a cover crop and some biodynamic farming practices. And then everything coalesced for Giscourt in the warm, dry 2022 vintage, as the vineyard responded by delivering a remarkably fresh-styled wine that lets classic cassis and plum flavors glide atop supple tannins, all gilded liberally with alluring floral notes. Topping it off, Van Beek felt quality was so high in 2022 that no second wine was made here. That means there are more than 15,000 cases of Giscourt's Grand Vin, a Cabernet Sauvignon-based blend that also includes Merlot, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. This classic-rated wine checks in at well under $100, making it a terrific relative value for an age-worthy classified growth Bordeaux. Wine is the ultimate long game, one in which quality and authenticity are the only roads to success. Chateau Giscourt has come a long way, and its 2022 Margaux is now Wine Spectator's 2025 Wine of the Year. Bravo.
Oddly enough, I tried to get a sample of this wine to feature in a video because last year at Wine Spectator's grand tasting, I met one of the U.S. employees from Chateau Giscourt because I've always liked them. Fortunately, it didn't work out. I visited the estate back in the 2022 en premiere. I've always liked this estate. I've had an 86 and an 89 last couple of years that just blew my socks off. And kudos to, it's a Margaux appellation, $68. now the price is gonna shoot up. But anyways, relative value in the world of fine wine, I've always liked Giscore, but, 2022 again, you can get tremendous value in Bordeaux, everything from entry level all the way up. Again, the Wine Spectator list is like, I don't how do they pull all these top 10, wines out of thin air? Because there are so many fantastic wines out there. I think it's just go out there and taste, 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 find what you like. Don't just trust this list and buy blindly because all these wines are going to go up in price. Find a style, something that you like, go to as many tastings as possible, get recommendations from friends that you trust, and form your own list, form your own opinion. So, what do you think about the top 10 list? I'd love to hear. Drop it in the comments below.